They say every town has a secret. Ours had a graveyard that nobody visited after midnight. Not because of superstition, but because of what we heard beneath the willow tree, a whisper, so faint you'd think it was just the wind, until it said your name. My name is Elias Carter, and this story isn't just something I wrote. It's something I survived. I grew up in the small town of Maple Hollow, a place so quiet that even the church bells seemed to ring in whispers. The kind of town where everyone knew each other, or at least, they thought they did. Behind the town's old chapel, tucked between the edge of the forest and the crumbling fence line, was Hollow Graveyard, an overgrown resting place filled with leaning tombstones and the smell of iron and moss. Kids dared each other to sneak in at night. I was never one of them. Until the night I turned 17. That night, I heard the whisper for the first time. It was late October, just days before Halloween. The air had that sharp, wet smell of fallen leaves. My friends, Liam and Marcus, had planned a stupid challenge. Spend 30 minutes inside Hollow Graveyard after midnight. No lights. No phones. Just the moon. I told them I'd only go to prove I wasn't scared. But fear has a funny way of showing itself. Sometimes it waits until you think you're safe before it crawls up your spine and makes a home there. We hopped the rusted gate just as the clock struck 12. The sound of metal scraping against our jeans echoed like screams in the silence. The moonlight spilled across the graveyard, pale and cold, painting everything in ghostly silver. The air was thick, not with fog, but with something heavier, like the ground itself was holding its breath. "This place smells like rot," Liam muttered. "That's the smell of courage dying," Marcus joked. I tried to laugh, but something inside me stirred, like a faint pressure in my ears, as if the world around us had shifted slightly out of tune. We wandered toward the old willow, the one that hung low over the oldest graves. The branches drooped like skeletal fingers brushing the ground. Beneath it, the headstone was cracked and faded. But I could still make out a name. Samuel Greaves. Born 1862. Died 1878. He was 16, a boy, just like us. "That's the one," Marcus whispered. "They say he was buried alive." The story went that Samuel was a grave digger's apprentice who got trapped in his own freshly dug grave after an accident. When they found him, his fingernails were torn, his mouth filled with dirt, and his eyes open, as if still begging to be pulled out of the dark. We stood in silence, the sound of wind weaving through the willow leaves. And then, we heard it. A whisper. Soft. Close. Like breath brushing the inside of my ear. "Elias." I froze. The others didn't react. "Did you hear that?" I asked. "Hear what?" Marcus said. "My name," I whispered. "Someone said my name." They laughed it off, until Liam's flashlight flickered on by itself. He hadn't even touched it. The light stuttered, flicked off again, and then the whisper came again, louder this time. "Elias, help me." The sound was coming from beneath the ground. I knelt by the grave, trembling. The earth was cold, damp against my fingers. I felt something, a faint vibration, like movement beneath the soil. "Stop," Marcus hissed. "You're freaking me out." "It's moving," I said. "There's something down there." The ground shifted, just slightly, and a hand broke through the dirt. I screamed and stumbled backward as a thin, gray hand clawed at the air. Its nails were black and broken, fingers twitching like it was trying to grab the moonlight itself. Liam dropped the flashlight, and the beam landed squarely on the grave. What we saw made all of us stop breathing. The earth pulsed. Like a heartbeat. Thump, thump, thump. The whisper grew deeper, now mixed with something else, a sob. It wasn't asking for help anymore. It was calling me by name, like it knew me. "Elias, you shouldn't have come back." My friends bolted. I couldn't move. I just stood there, frozen in the half-light, staring into that open patch of earth where something ancient, something lonely, wanted out. Then, as suddenly as it began, the whisper stopped. The grave stilled. Silence, heavy and absolute. Only the sound of my own heartbeat filled my ears. I turned to run, but the willow branches had wrapped around my shoulders like arms. And then I heard the voice one last time. "Welcome home, Elias." After that night in Hollow Graveyard, everything changed. Liam swore he'd never talk about it again. Marcus left town within a week. And me? I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that hand, gray, thin, still moving even after the ground went still. But what scared me most wasn't what I saw. It was what I heard the next morning. I woke to tapping, faint, rhythmic, on my bedroom window. 3 taps. Pause. Then 1. When I pulled the curtain, there was no one there. Just the fog pressing against the glass like it was breathing. And yet, the sound didn't stop. It shifted. From the window, to under the floor. Tap, tap, tap. That's when I realized something was inside the walls. I told my mom about it, of course. She said it was the house settling. But that house had been settling for 17 years, and it never whispered my name before. At night, I'd hear soft scratching under my bed. Sometimes whispering. Always saying the same thing. "Elias, come back." By the 3rd night, I was half convinced I'd lost my mind. But when I woke up with dirt under my fingernails, I knew it wasn't just a dream. That's when I decided to go back, to Hollow Graveyard. I brought a shovel, a flashlight, and a recorder. The moon was half hidden behind a wall of clouds, and the willow tree swayed like it was alive, reaching for me. The grave, Samuel Greaves's grave, looked untouched. But the ground felt soft, like it had been turned recently. I pressed record. "It's Elias Carter. I'm here to figure out what happened last night. I need to know what's under this grave." The wind stopped. Even the crickets fell silent. Only my heartbeat, slow, heavy, echoed in the stillness. I began to dig. Every scoop of earth smelled like metal and decay. The deeper I went, the colder it got. My breath came out in clouds, though it wasn't even that cold outside. After what felt like hours, my shovel hit something solid, wood. The coffin. But it wasn't the size I expected. It was small. Child-sized. I knelt, brushed the dirt away, and felt letters carved roughly into the lid. Not Samuel Greaves. It said, Elias Carter. I dropped the flashlight. My stomach twisted. The world spun. I stared at the coffin, my name carved deep into its surface. It was old, weathered, but how could it have my name? Then the whisper came again. Right beside my ear. "You took my place." The coffin lid shifted, not from my touch, but from something inside pushing up. I stumbled back, but the ground felt soft and alive beneath me. The soil rippled, swallowing the edges of the grave as though the earth was breathing again. The lid cracked open. Inside, I saw a face, pale, sunken, lips sewn shut with coarse thread. The eyes fluttered open. And it looked exactly like me. I screamed, a raw, broken sound, and scrambled backward. But the ground beneath me opened like a mouth, swallowing the flashlight, the recorder, and half my leg before I tore myself free. The air filled with the scent of damp rot, and through the darkness I heard my own voice, not the whisper, but my voice, calling out from below. "You left me there. You were supposed to stay." I ran. I didn't care where. The branches clawed my face as I tore through the willow's roots and over the fence, not stopping until I saw the lights of my house again. When I got home, I went straight to the bathroom. My hands were trembling so hard I could barely turn on the faucet. And then I saw it, in the mirror. There was a line of dirt around my neck. A faint mark. Like something had tried to pull me down. That night, I played the recorder back. At first, there was just the sound of my voice and the shovel hitting dirt. But then, about halfway through, I heard something else, another voice whispering over mine. It said, "You're digging the wrong grave." After that night, I stopped going near the graveyard. But the graveyard didn't stop coming near me. For days, I tried to pretend it hadn't happened. I buried the shovel, threw out the recorder, and burned the clothes I wore that night. But no matter what I did, the smell of dirt lingered, under my nails, in my hair, in my dreams. Then came the mirrors. It started small, a smudge on the bathroom mirror that looked like a handprint. I wiped it away, but it came back the next morning, bigger. And when I leaned closer, I swear I saw movement. Not my reflection. Someone standing behind me. At first, I told myself it was stress. I'd gone through something traumatic. But when I started noticing changes in my reflection, the kind you can't explain, I knew it wasn't just in my head. My eyes looked darker. My skin paler. And sometimes, my reflection didn't move when I did. I'd tilt my head. He'd smile. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I covered every mirror in the house with sheets. Even the little ones, the toaster, the window glass, the television when it was off. But when I woke the next morning, all the sheets were gone. And carved into the bathroom mirror, in long, jagged scratches, were 2 words. Dig again. I tried calling Marcus that night. No answer. His parents said he'd left for college early, but I knew better. Liam, though, picked up. He sounded different. Hollow. "Elias," he said, "I saw him too." "Who?" I asked. "You." But it wasn't you. He was standing in my room. His face was covered in dirt. The line went dead. That same night, my bedroom window cracked, from the inside. I smelled earth. Wet, decaying earth. And then I saw it again, a handprint, pressed against the mirror on my closet door. Only this time, there were 2. I stood there, staring, breath fogging the glass. The handprints began to move, sliding downward slowly, as though something was climbing out from the other side. The surface rippled, the reflection shimmering like water. And then, his face appeared. My face. But dirt-caked. Hollow-eyed. Mouth stitched shut. He pressed his forehead against the glass, leaving streaks of soil. When he spoke, the stitches broke one by one. "You stole my life." The mirror cracked. A thin fracture shot across it like lightning. And then, a hand pushed through. It grabbed my wrist, ice-cold, inhumanly strong, pulling with such force that my arm began to sink into the glass like mud. I screamed, thrashing, trying to pull free. My reflection, "No," he grinned as he yanked harder. Just before I was pulled all the way through, I managed to grab the edge of the dresser and wrench myself backward. The mirror shattered. Shards scattered across the floor, each one reflecting a slightly different version of me, some smiling, some screaming. And in one of them, I saw him still standing there. Still waiting. I didn't sleep after that. Every reflective surface in the house, gone. I smashed them all. But even with no mirrors left, I could still feel his eyes on me. Sometimes, when I walked past a dark window at night, I'd see a second shadow beside mine. Sometimes, it moved before I did. The next morning, I found something outside my door. A small, dirt-caked mirror. Oval-shaped. Old. Cracked. On the back, etched in faint letters. Property of Samuel Greaves. I think I understand now. Samuel didn't die in that grave. He was buried in a mirror, trapped between worlds. And when I went digging, I gave him a way back. But he didn't just want out. He wanted in. That night, I set up a camera. I had to know if he was still coming through. Around 2 in the morning, I woke to the sound of static and faint scratching, not at the door, not at the walls, but inside the lens. The camera had turned on by itself. And through the tiny viewfinder, I saw the reflection again. Not in the mirror, but in the screen. He was standing behind me. I turned, nothing there. But the screen showed him reaching forward, fingers stretching toward my shoulder. I dropped the camera. The moment it hit the floor, the lights flickered, and a whisper filled the room. Almost home. After that night, after the mirror, I knew it wasn't over. I could feel him in the corners of every room, in the cold air brushing the back of my neck. I'd turn my head and catch glimpses, a reflection in a doorknob, a flicker in a window. Always there. Always smiling. I stopped eating. I stopped sleeping. I started digging again. It was instinct, or maybe obsession. I went back to Hollow Graveyard one final time, though I swore I never would. The willow tree loomed like a shadow made of bone. The air was colder than it should have been, the fog thicker, clinging to me like it didn't want to let go. But this time, I wasn't alone. When I reached the grave, there was already someone standing there. Back turned to me. Dirt-covered clothes. Mud caked on bare feet. He turned around, and I saw my own face again. "You came back," he said. "I had to," I replied. "It's too late," he whispered. "You opened the door." His mouth trembled. Soil spilled from between his teeth. "It was never my grave, Elias. It was yours." The earth around us began to shake, low at first, then deep enough to rattle my bones. The willow branches whipped through the fog like arms reaching down from the sky. Every grave in the yard trembled. Stone cracked. Soil shifted. Hands began breaking through the dirt, dozens of them, gray and cold, reaching for the surface. The ground beneath my feet gave way, pulling me down. I fell into the same grave I'd dug weeks before, the same one with my name carved into the coffin lid. It was open now. Empty. "Get out!" I screamed. "Get out of my body." The other me stood above the grave, smiling. "You never understood," he said. "You were the one buried that night. You just never stopped dreaming." He leaned closer, his eyes hollow and endless. "Wake up, Elias. It's time to go home." He reached for me. His hand pressed against my chest, cold as death. I felt my heart slow. My vision dim. The air turned to dust in my lungs. And in that moment, I saw everything. The night I turned 17. The hand breaking through the soil. The voice whispering my name. It wasn't Samuel Greaves reaching for help. It was me. I had never left the graveyard that night. When I woke, I was lying under the willow. The dawn light was gray and thin, seeping through the mist. The grave beside me was sealed. My name, gone. Only one name remained. Samuel Greaves. I stumbled home in silence. The streets were empty. The air felt different. When I reached my front door, I saw a reflection in the glass, a pale figure standing inside, smiling at me. He waved. I didn't. Because when I reached for the handle, my hand passed through the wood. I don't think I ever made it out of that grave. Maybe this voice, this story, isn't mine at all. Maybe I'm just what's left of the whisper beneath the willow. Maybe I'm the echo that never stopped digging. If you ever go to Maple Hollow, don't follow the whisper. And whatever you do, don't look in the mirror.